O.J. Simpson has just been released from prison in Nevada just after midnight local time.
People are going to now be staking out pretty much the entire state of Nevada to see where O.J. goes.
It's his nature that he wants to get back into the limelight. I think he really enjoys the attention that the media gives him.
A tense situation unfolding in Puerto Rico, and it's growing more dire by the minute.
The big problem is still power. Only 5% of the grid is back online.
We are sending tremendous amounts of supplies, tremendous amounts of food and water, and we are sending great people to help.
Outrage over the national anthem protest continues across the country.
We should take some of these young men and we should send them to Kandahar, Afghanistan. Have them stand with those soldiers and get them to explain to them what the American flag means to them.
We need to pray before the flag. We need to pray before the anthem. As a country, as a community, that's what we do.
President Trump has been rolling out the plans for tax reform this week.
I think it's important for Democrats and Republicans to come to the table. If you're not coming to the table to try to deal with tax relief, there's no question that families are paying more taxes than in the history of the nation.
This is a once-in-a-generation opportunity to pass tax reform and to restore our jobs, our wealth, and our great American dream.
It is October 1st. It is Sunday edition of Fox and Friends Weekend, and we are right to a Fox News alert because O.J. Simpson is officially a free man.
The 70-year-old released on parole overnight in Nevada after spending 9 years in prison for a botched armed robbery.
Adam Housley live for us in Las Vegas with the very latest. Adam, good morning.
Good morning, guys. Yeah, about 3 hours ago, O.J. walked out of the northern Nevada prison up in Lovelock, about an hour and 15 to hour and 20 minutes or so outside of Reno at about 8 minutes past midnight local time. So again, just almost 3 hours ago, O.J. walked out. We have the 6-second video that was taken by the Nevada Department of Corrections, and they put this out. There's also a photo. You can see O.J. dressed in jeans and some white tennis shoes. We're told that there was one SUV outside. It was not a Ford Bronco. That question, of course, is going to be asked. He had one person inside driving. They don't know if anybody was in the back. There was no real issues whatsoever. He got into the SUV and he drove off. We do know that Brooke Keese, the public information officer for the Nevada Department of Corrections, did have an exchange, which they say happens pretty periodically when someone is released on parole. Basically, she says that she told O.J. upon release, don't come back, and O.J. said, I don't intend to. That was pretty much all they heard from O.J. as he signed the papers and left in that SUV. Now the question becomes is where does he go? The common belief, and at least we talked to his friends and family, is that he's coming here to Las Vegas. Significant driving distance to the south, but he could fly in a private jet, he could fly a plane, could take commercial in the morning once the commercial flights are back in service in Reno, because you could take a Reno flight to Vegas, no problem. But at this hour, we don't know where he's going. That is at least the belief, because Florida officially has said that the paperwork has not been turned in, and we do know that's been acknowledged by his family and his attorney that he wants to end up in Florida. So as right now, guys, we believe he's coming here, and we're told now the latest number is $20,000 potentially for that first photo of somebody getting of O.J. wherever he may be. So we'll be, of course, keeping our eyes out on social media. And Vegas is still awake, as you might imagine, so if he arrives here, he'll have a lot of people here to see him. Back to you guys in New York.
All right, Adam Housley, live for us. Thank you so much. If I were living in Nevada right now, I'd want to know where he was going. I'd want to know where he was right now and where he was heading.
Or if, you happen to board your 6 a.m. commercial flight and on board.
Sitting right next to you?
Yes.
That's an Instagram moment. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, what do you talk about?
That's a good question.
Maybe you give him a tutorial on your iPhone, because he plans to want to go out and get a new iPhone because he's been in prison before that really became a big thing.
Right.
He wants to have a steak and some seafood, it says.
He wants the simple pleasures of life that didn't get in prison, and he wants to go to Florida. We're going to have Pam Bondi, the Attorney General of Florida, on our show later on. She says they don't want him in Florida. I don't know, Todd.
Can the Attorney General? So look, here's the deal. She wrote a letter requesting that he not be allowed in Florida. We're going to talk to her about the legalities of all that, the law involved, whether that's going to work, whether it's not going to work, because there's something called an interstate compact that may prevent that. So we're going to talk to her about that and what she's hoping to accomplish with her letter.
Well, that's where his kids are. That's where I think he enjoys spending most of his time. We weren't around when he was in 1968. At least we weren't old enough to really appreciate it. I wasn't around then, but you think about where he was at that moment, one of the best college running backs at USC, then going on to play for the Buffalo Bills.
He was a runner-up to win the Heisman Trophy. Then he won the Heisman Trophy. Then he was the first to run for 2,000 yards. Before it was a 16-game season. It was a 14-game season. I mean, this guy was a superstar, and then he went into Hollywood and made
cultural
movies.
icon. Yeah.
Cultural icon, indeed. That's why there was so much fascination. I even remember in junior high the verdict. I mean, it's one of those you remember where you were.
I was in second grade on the playground.
I know, it's crazy.
Old Man River over here was in high school, I guess, but you know, it really is, and it's an iconic moment. And so
We've followed this for years and years, but you know, we'll keep a close eye on that one as well. But a lot going on.
Developments continue, and President Trump has announced, he announced a couple days ago, he'll be heading to Puerto Rico to see firsthand the devastation, as he did in Florida, as he did in Texas, following hurricanes that hit there. But he's been hit pretty hard by the San Juan mayor. Her name is Carmine Yulín Cruz. If you turn it to any other network, I think she is permanently on television these days, bashing the president. The president hitting back yesterday, saying this in a tweet. He wrote, "I will be in Puerto Rico on Tuesday to further ensure we continue doing everything possible to assist and support the people in their time of great need." And so he has doubled down on saying, hey, this is a mayor, and this mayor 4 days ago was praising FEMA, praising the response. She was adamant about it, saying it could be faster, it could be quicker, but now she's turned really nasty, saying, you know, we are dying here, the president is doing nothing, and he's been punching back.
Well, she did an interview on another network where she was asked about the president's efforts, and she says,
it was a press conference.
Was it a press conference?
Yep.
Yeah, take a listen to this.
I will do what I never thought I was going to do. I am begging anyone that can hear us to save us from dying. I am asking the members of the press to send a Mayday call all over the world. We are dying here.
So you heard that press conference there. Our own Geraldo Rivera, who's been on the ground there for days now, he's got a lot of family. This Puerto Rico is something that is very close to his heart. So he did an interview with this mayor, and he pressed her on some of the things that she was saying. You got to take a listen to this.
It is hostile. When people are dying, it is hostile.
But I don't see people dying, Mayor.
Well,
that's my
then I don't think you're going to the right place.
Well, you're talking about people starving?
Yeah. People don't have food, people don't have water, people can't have their dialysis, people can't have their oxygen tank. So maybe you haven't gone to the right places. You know, if you are a mother and have to give your child water from a creek, I don't think that's something that people want to see in any country.
If you look behind the mayor there, pallets of food and water. If we can cut back to the original shot at the press conference, it's ironic. She's bashing the aid effort as she stands in front of pallets of food, U.S. aid sent. And you can talk about bureaucracy and process, and it can always be faster in cutting through red tape. But those comments, as well as, I think you were alluding to it, Abby, some comments she made on CNN, basically saying the president's response is sexist. And she said, maybe he's used to women who need to be told what to do. So you've kind of, in my mind, she's been all over the media. She's become kind of the new face of the resistance of how many problems are going on. And but you know, if you're that busy, if your people are drinking out of creeks, and I don't minimize at all what's happening there. Of course, it's devastation. Apparently, you also have time to get screen printed shirts that say, help us. We are dying, SOS.
Well, in that same interview you were talking about where she says President Trump is used to women being told what to do, right before she made that comment, she said, I don't want to get into small politics here.
And that's exactly
then
what she
divulged
did,
right into that. So I was reading another article of a mayor in Puerto Rico of a different town, and he was saying how it's interesting that she's saying that because that's not what I have seen from my perspective. And also, ironically, she hasn't been in any of the meetings that I have been in with the federal government, with FEMA, the people that are on the ground to help. So if you're going to make these statements and you're going to have, you know, these claims about what's really going on, maybe do your job and work with the feds on the ground to help the people that you serve. That would give you a little more credibility.
And to Pete's point, saying, oh, maybe he doesn't listen to women. You have seen so much of the president dealing with Congresswoman Jennifer Gonzalez-Colon, Congresswoman for Puerto Rico, and you see those two have a very, very good relationship. They're both working together. One takeaway that I want to say, obviously, the three of us aren't there. Obviously, we're not on the ground. Geraldo is. He's coming up live at 6:20. But before we start jumping into a political he said, she said, let's remember that there are a number of individuals that are saying the response has been okay. The governor of Puerto Rico and the president have been in constant communication. We've heard Brock Long. If you're going to take anybody's view on all of this, I think you should take Brock Long, the FEMA administrator, because we saw how great he did during Houston and in Florida. Let's listen to what he is saying. He is saying, look, We need to work hard here, but at the end of the day, this mayor of San Juan is a little bit off the rails. FEMA is trying their best. We're doing an okay job. More is going to be done, but let's not jump to conclusions right off the bat.
Yeah, or play politics or play identity politics like claiming it's sexism. But also, it is Sunday. It's football Sunday, and we've been covering the story of kneel or not kneel. The president's starting a national conversation about that. In fact, on the show in the 9 o'clock hour, we're going to live feed the London game, which plays early, and see what happens.
We did that last Sunday. Remember what happened?
We did that last Sunday. They stood for the Queen, but not for us. President Trump quadrupling down. I don't even know what it is now. I don't even know the right word. He's continuing the fight, saying very important that NFL players stand tomorrow, as always, for the playing of the national anthem, respect our flag and our country. Many teams have changed their position. The Dallas Cowboys, who kneeled and then stood, they will now be standing with their hand over their heart. Pittsburgh Steelers, who stayed in the locker room, have said them, as well as the New Orleans Saints, Drew Brees coming out and saying that they will stand as well. So it'll be very, very interesting if that was a one-week thing and the NFL has said, let's end this, or whether it continues.
Because they realize people just want to watch football.
Yeah.
And ultimately, it impacts the people that are going to watch it. It impacts the ratings. It impacts the advertiser. So I'm not surprised at all that this is what we're seeing happen. But we'll be watching this closely
3 hours
this morning and see what happens.
Can I make one more note? I'm kind of sick of the arm locking. Honestly, put your hand over your heart and honor your country. Arm locking is still this like mini resistance. I still stand.
You know, as long as they're not kneeling during the anthem, I think a lot of people are okay with that.
Understood.
But we do have some other headlines I want to bring you, starting with the Fox News alert and a violent showdown between voters and police as a Spanish region fights to break away from that country. Police in Catalonia forcing their way inside a voting center, smashing glass and breaking locks to seize ballot boxes. Well, we'll get that video for you shortly. Millions of people have been voting in the referendum in defiance of the Spanish government. You can see it right there, which had pledged to stop the poll after the country's constitutional court declared it to be illegal. And now to another Fox News alert. Chaos in Canada. An attack on an officer in a high-speed chase that left 2 people injured. They are now being investigated as acts of terror. First, police say a driver plowed right into a police car in Edmonton outside a football game, then stabbed an officer and attacking others before running off. There are also reports there was an ISIS flag inside of that suspect's car. Later, police going on a high-speed chase when they thought they spotted the suspect driving a white U-Haul. The van running into a group of pedestrians. 2 women were knocked unconscious. The suspect was handcuffed at the scene. Still unclear, though, if this was the same man from that first attack. And those are some headlines this morning.
Yeah, I mean, if you got an ISIS flag in the front of your truck, you're probably not up to good.
It's a sign.
Things.
It's a sign.
It's a detail. Yeah.
All right. No way in hell. That's the response to President Trump's tax plan from some Republicans. What's their beef, and do they have a point?
And hard work is racist, at least according to this professor right here. Is she really teaching that in the classroom? Wait to hear what she had to say. President Trump is selling his tax plan as rocket fuel for the economy, but some Republicans, unfortunately, aren't buying it. Senator Bob Corker says right now there is no, quote, no way in hell he's voting for this plan, while New Jersey and New York congressmen plan to fight to keep state and local tax deductions. So what does this mean for the fate of the president's tax reform? Here to weigh in is tax and financial expert Dan Geltrude. Dan, thanks for joining us this morning.
Thanks.
So the president releases his plan. It's a simplification of the tax code, a reduction of rates, but one of it includes ending the deductions for state and local income taxes. Tell us why different states would react differently to that plan.
If you have a state that's a high tax state, generally the states along the coast, blue states, California, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, they have very high tax rates. So what's going to happen is those people from those states are not going to get the benefit of a federal tax deduction for those high taxes that they have been paying. So that's something that seems to be upsetting some people.
So they pay additional federal tax as a result, which means I believe the scoring is the federal revenue will increase by $1.3 trillion over the decade, according to the Tax Policy Center. So the Republicans are looking for pay-fors in this plan. This is one of them. But if you're in a state where you don't have any state income tax, you're loving this.
It has no impact on them. However, let's be clear about something. The president is not looking at that specific item, the reduction of itemized deductions, for state taxes as a way to raise money here for the federal government. The whole point of his tax plan, which, by the way, we really should be referring to as an economic plan, because this is about putting money back into the people's hands. The economy is not going to take off by the government taking our money.
Sure.
So what happens here is that the president is looking to simplify, meaning offset those deductions with higher standard deduction.
They're almost doubling the standard deduction.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
Getting rid of the AMT and to lower rates. And at a minimum, it's going to be an offset, but the president's plan is supposed to actually lower taxes. But keep in mind, this is a work in progress. We don't really know what the plan is going to say. It's a blueprint. So
it's a blueprint, but as a tax expert and financial expert, what's the most important part of the blueprint? What should be the non-negotiable aspect for the president and for Republicans?
I think when you're talking about getting fuel into this economy, it's really lowering that corporate income tax, getting it from 35 now to 20, bringing it down. We're talking about bringing corporations back to the United States. We're talking about bringing foreign corporations to do business in the United States and creating jobs for Americans.
You know, the CBO scoring always becomes an issue with bills. The CBO does not score dynamically, which means they do not include growth. What should Republicans do to sort of account for the fact that Democrats are suddenly now going to be fiscal hawks and be talking about exploding debt?
Well, that's all about politics. And let's look at it this way. The CBO isn't always right. Whatever the CBO says, well, the party that is favored by that opinion, they jump all over it.
It's true. It's become a political football for sure. Dan Geltrude, thanks for your time.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. All right. Well, the liberal media piling on the president for the disaster relief effort in Puerto Rico.
How dare he?
This is what white nationalism looks like as policy.
Someone actually said that on television. Should they really be pushing to politicize this disaster? A debate next. And how would you like to see this at your window at 38,000 feet? I don't know what I'm looking at, but is that a drone? I'm not sure. We're teasing it. We are back with a Fox News alert. The mayor of San Juan, Puerto Rico, firing back after President Trump slams her cooperation during the island's humanitarian crisis.
This as more aid is arriving to the hurricane-ravaged island. Fox News correspondent at large Geraldo Rivera live for us in San Juan with an exclusive interview with Mayor Carmen Yulín Cruz. Geraldo?
Hi, guys. You know, it's very sad to me, very melancholy that in the midst of this disaster, partisan politics is weighing its ugly head. You have a Republican governor who generally thinks the relief effort is going swell, and then you have a very left-wing Democratic mayor of San Juan who is in this fight with the President of the United States, causing outrage in the mainstream media that the President is insensitive and the President is ignoring the plight of the people of Puerto Rico. Now, you know, I have been mildly critical of the U.S. relief effort. I think it's been uneven, it's been spotty, but it has been sincere, and I think that the momentum is picking up. But Carmen Yulín Cruz, the mayor of San Juan, went so far as to say that people are dying as a result of lack of aid. Let's listen to a brief excerpt of my exclusive interview with the mayor, and then we'll talk more on the other side. Here's the mayor of San Juan.
Dying is a continuum, right? If you don't get fed for 7-8 days and you're a child, you are dying. If you have 11 people like we took out of a nursing home severely dehydrated, you are dying.
But do you wish you had characterized that a little more?
No, it is. It is the way it is. I said it the way it is. I don't have to characterize anything in any way that is not the reality. That is the truth. He who has eyes will be able to see it. He who has an open heart will be able to feel it. Those that prefer to be blinded to injustice, that's their issue. I have no time for that.
As far as I know, Abby, the death toll has been 16, has remained at 16 for this awful calamity that befell Puerto Rico. It's been at 16 for over a week. The mayor is not literally correct, but I lament and I stress this, I lament that there is this kind of bitterness and partisanship when everybody should be on the same team, Abby.
Yeah, Geraldo, I think you speak for a lot of people this morning. Your perspective on the ground is so crucial. We're going to have more of that interview at 7:30, Geraldo, so we'll see you soon. Thank you so much. Well, the liberal media, as you just heard from Geraldo there, piling on the president for the disaster relief effort in Puerto Rico. Take a listen.
He's got the biggest platform here, and he is the one that's telling the people of Puerto Rico that they want everything done for him and blaming their financial crisis on this devastation. How dare he?
This is what white nationalism looks like as policy. Puerto Ricans are Americans. Donald Trump doesn't care about that.
It's just not human behavior. When he tweets about Puerto Rico saying that they need a handout, he actually makes his race problem worse.
Mr. President, that's not good enough.
Well, you should have paid your bills.
Sir, we just need help, please.
Wow. That woman was so nasty.
So did anti-Trump media rush to politicize the crisis in Puerto Rico? Here to debate Democratic strategist, Fox News contributor Jessica Tarlov, and former Navy SEAL and AmeriCorps Chief of External Affairs, Carl Higbee. Thank you both for being here.
Good morning.
Thanks for having us.
You just heard there from our own Geraldo Rivera, and he said it is unfortunate. I'm on the ground here. It's unfortunate that before we even are able to see where we're going to be in the coming days, weeks, and months, this is already so politicized. Jessica, where do you fall on this?
I fall not with Geraldo on this. I fall a little, I guess, now to the left on this. I think that where the crucial mistake was made was actually last weekend when the president favored getting involved with the NFL controversy and the Steph Curry stuff rather than focusing on Puerto Rico.
But you don't know that for a fact. I mean,
no, we do,
because
he wasn't tweeting about it.
That's fine, but here's what I would say. We are not behind closed doors at the White House, so wherever
well, he wasn't at the White House either. He was golfing.
That's not the point. Wherever he was at the time, we don't know how he was spending all of that time, who he was talking to, who he was on the phone.
I'm sure he was on the phone with FEMA officials, but Donald Trump has made it very clear that he speaks to the American people, Puerto Ricans are Americans as well, through his Twitter account. He chose to prioritize something else, and I think that after he did get praise, which he did for how he handled Florida and Texas, that it would have been smart to be emphasizing what was going on in Puerto Rico at that time, and I think the liberal media would have had to lay off a little bit if he was there and they could say, oh, there's a tweet where he's saying, you know, our hearts are with you, we're sending aid as fast as we can. That's where I think the mistake began.
Carl, you know how important it is to be there during a disaster. That is your most important job as commander-in-chief. What are your thoughts?
Well, I'm glad Jessica gauges the president's success on his Twitter account, but the reality here is I speak to the people on the ground in Puerto Rico daily. I speak to, I was down in Texas, down in Rockport where the eye of the hurricane came down. The president has had an unprecedented response to this hurricane, and just because he's not tweeting about it doesn't mean he's not doing anything.
He only tweets about things he cares about. You haven't seen that, and don't say that I think that that's what gauges his success. I think it's actually not BS. A successful strategy.
That's complete BS. He put 12,000 people on the ground in Puerto Rico. Right now, we have people doing convoys clearing roads. We have 60% of the roads clear in Puerto Rico right now because of our efforts, because the president sent people down there to aid these people. And I love all these Democratic strategists and these Democratic pundits who come on and say that the president doesn't care, the president's not doing it. What do you want to do? How do you want to make a difference? Because I know right now the unprecedented resources that are in that area, we are flying, driving, walking, hiking, anything we can to get resources to any single person in the island of Puerto Rico right now, and it's not being paid attention to.
Also, can I jump in? All these commentators we've heard that are sitting in their air-conditioned studios that are voicing their opinion about what's going on the ground, that's really hard to take seriously because they don't know. They are not there. The other question I have, Jessica, is this mayor that we just showed that video of who's been very critical of the president. They've been going back and forth on Twitter as well. There's another mayor in Puerto Rico who says, look, she hasn't been part of our meeting. She hasn't come. When FEMA is on the ground there, they're helping us assess what's going on, helping us help the people. Does that hurt her credibility?
I don't think that it does. I think that she actually makes a very credible case for what's going on, even if she's standing in front of pallets of water. I mean, the idea that that's going to fix the problem if she was just handing out those bottles of water instead of standing in front of them, that doesn't really matter. I think that when you have the President of the United States of America personally attacking a government official who is on the ground there, and there are reporters who are down there as well. I mean, we have people there, obviously Geraldo, and the other major networks do as well. I think the issue is the president getting into the weeds, going down there, personally attacking, saying that the Democrats got to her, saying that the Puerto Ricans want everything done for them, as if this is just some sort of handout. You know, half of the people in Puerto Rico still don't have running water. I believe it's still half of the hospitals are not open. You see these pictures.
But 5 days ago, nobody did.
So we've made huge strides. And this is the funny thing. You don't think it's that important that the mayor has not attended these actual meetings?
Oh, no, I do think that's important.
But you do think it's important that the president hasn't tweeted about it. So, like, you're mad the president hasn't tweeted, but you're not mad she hasn't attended the meetings
How
to aid
mad
her
do you
own
want
people?
me to get about someone who's down there?
Quickly, last word here. How important is it for the president to get down there on Tuesday? How will this whole conversation change?
I think the conversation is going to change drastically. I mean, to see this kind of devastation in person, like I was in Rockport last week, it is a total disaster. And for him to see that, what it means is it's symbolic. He cares. He's going down there, taking time to go and see the disaster himself and analyze whatever he needs to analyze to find out if he needs to commit more resources than he already has, which I don't think, quite frankly, we can at this point.
Well, most importantly are the people on the ground there that need the help. All right, both of you, thank you so much for being here. All right, O.J. Simpson released overnight, a free man for the first time in 9 years. So what is next for him? Mark Furman joins us live to react next. And hard work is racist, at least according to this professor. Is she really teaching that to her kids? We've got more on that this morning. Stick with us. And we are back with a Fox News alert. O.J. Simpson is officially a free man. There he is, a 70-year-old released on parole overnight in Nevada after spending 9 years in prison for a botched armed robbery.
It is believed he will live in Las Vegas for now, but Simpson did tell the parole board he wants to go to Florida. However, the Florida Department of Corrections says they have yet to receive a transfer request.
Simpson will now spend the next 5 years under parole supervision. Here to comment on it now, we're going to bring in Mark Furman, former LAPD detective and Fox News contributor. Mark, good morning. Obviously, you've got a long history here with Mr. O.J. Simpson. He is free. Your take this morning.
Well, it's quite interesting that they describe him as being free. He's not free. He still belongs to the state of Nevada and the prison system in Nevada. He's on parole. They're just allowing him to be out in the public. So it's going to be a long 5 years for him to actually stay on the straight and narrow. It's just not his style.
You also say the media, if they were smart, they would simply ignore this man. How are you feeling this morning, as I'm sure it is blanketing all the airwaves out there with him being released?
Well, I think they're doing exactly what he wants. I mean, he loves this attention, and I'm sure he loves the idea of people scrambling to get an interview or a photograph. I just think it's somewhat of an embarrassing profile we're giving as a nation or a people in what they're interested in. Is a parolee gets out of a prison in Nevada that got away with a double murder and got tagged for a robbery and did 9 years, and this is somehow the lead story in the news in a country where we have hurricanes, we're at war in the Middle East, we're about to go enter a conflict with North Korea, we have a bad nuclear deal in Iran, and this is what we talk about.
I want to get your opinion on something you just said moments ago. You said you don't think he can stay on the straight and narrow. Let's delve a little bit more into that. What do you think happens to a now 70-year-old O.J. Simpson?
Well, you look at, I mean, he's been in prison for 9 years. In the state of Nevada, when you're a parolee, you can't even have alcohol in excess. Now, excess means 0.08. And for the people that are watching that don't know what that means, that's 2 drinks in an hour, and you're probably a 0.08. I mean, that's just one condition of parole. No Fourth Amendment privilege. In other words, he can be searched, his house, his car, by a law enforcement officer that is aware of his parole situation or a parole officer. And his conduct is scrutinized quite a bit deeper than that. I mean, his conduct in business, employment, where he goes, where he travels. This is something that O.J. Simpson might have a very difficult time succeeding in this situation in parole.
Mark, O.J. Simpson, it's a cultural phenomenon. It's like a train wreck, and oftentimes people can't take their eyes off of. Why has he become that? Why this 20, 30, 40-year spectacle of a sports star, the trial, now this? Why can people not look away?
You know, I'm not sure why. I think O.J. Simpson trial was the beginning of reality TV. I think the media at large might be responsible for some of that. They realized that they didn't need to pay actors, and they didn't need studios, and they didn't need any kind of a backdrop other than a camera and a tragedy, and they make the most of it. And if you watch TV, we have cameras on people's homes and we're watching them live. I can't imagine anything more boring, and I can't imagine anything more boring than to watch O.J. Simpson in his normal everyday routine. But that's what the media is going to do. They're going to follow him.
Yeah, you know, a lot of people are fascinated by this man. I mean, especially the generation above mine that have been around him. They've followed his career, right? I mean, he was the best running back in the nation at USC, then went on to pro football. He's been in Hollywood. But for the younger generation coming up, people that are waking up this morning that don't fully understand why the world is so fascinated with O.J. Simpson, what is your message to them?
Well, I think they should actually look at the history of O.J. Simpson. You know, him being a Heisman Trophy winner and, you know, the best running back of the period, maybe of all time, actually allowed him to get away with conduct that all of us would never be able to get away with. Several times he beat his wife. You know, his conduct was outside of the law, outside of the norms of society, but they protected and they kept that under wraps. That is the O.J. Simpson that ended up killing 2 people. That could have been stopped, that could have been intercepted, but it wasn't, because people looked at him as a god instead of a human.
It's a great point. A double standard for those in the bright lights as opposed to regular folks. Mark Furman, thank you very much for joining us this morning. Appreciate it.
Great to have you on. All right, turning out to some other headlines, we're following horror in the sky as a plane flies low to the ground during an emergency landing in Canada. We were wondering what this was earlier. The Air France jet's engine blowing up and disintegrating in midair. Passengers, what did I say that right?
Disintegrating.
Disintegrating in midair.
Which is even more scary.
Passengers describing the engine blowing up as a, quote, loud thud and a lot of vibration. Could you imagine being on that flight? Well, the Air France jet flying from Paris to L.A., luckily, nobody was hurt, but I imagine how
Call that
frightening.
flying map of the earth, and that would be dicey.
Wow. And police have a new way to spot MS-13 gang members, and it's not face tattoos, it's sneakers. They say one of the gang's top leaders was heard on a tapped prison phone telling members to ditch these blue and white Nikes. He said they're a dead giveaway to cops and gang rivals, and getting caught with them could mean a trip back to El Salvador. The gang has become a prime target of the Trump administration. Also this morning, a Penn State professor is calling on colleagues to undermine students' belief in the value of hard work because it's white ideology. Angela Putnam designed a 3-day seminar on white privilege, then interviewed 12 students on their belief in meritocracy and equal opportunity. In an academic article, she writes this: are socialized to believe that we got to where we are because of our own individual efforts. She now wants colleagues to stop, quote, perpetuating and reifying whiteness through intense re-education. Should I read that one more time so we can fully understand what she's getting at?
Read it again so we can be more confused. Don't let you take that one. Don't work hard, kids, because then you're just exercising your white privilege.
This is all part of the let's have a universal income. You know, let's make it easy on everybody. Nobody needs to work.
I bet she wants that, too. All right, Christopher Columbus, the latest victim of our nation's new politically correct culture, but not in one town. How they are trying to save Christopher Columbus statues next.
And while some NFL players kneel, this high school team is honoring our first responders in the most awesome way. It will make your Sunday. We've got that for you coming up. Welcome back to Fox and Friends this Sunday, and all eyes are turning to the NFL today as more national anthem protests are expected to come game time.
Yeah, tensions between the NFL fans and even the president continue to rise as players keep taking a knee.
Our own Griff Jenkins joins us live from M&T Stadium in Baltimore, where the Ravens are playing the Steelers. Griff, what do you have for us this morning?
Hey,
Hey, Pete, Abby, and Todd. You know, this is the birthplace of the national anthem, and there's a lot of attention on one former player, Ray Lewis. That's the statue behind me. But first, President Trump tweeting last night a little instructions for all the NFL players, saying, quote, very important that NFL players stand tomorrow and always for the playing of our national anthem, respect our flag and country. Now, there is a petition on change.org. Last week, one fan here in Baltimore putting up to remove the Ray Lewis statue for his kneeling with the players. More than 73,000 people have signed on to that. Ray Lewis was on Fox Report last night defending his kneeling. Here's what he had to say.
Look, we got to change the narrative because we have to. I think it's so confusing now that we have to like isolate on one thing, and that is if the dollar bill says "In God we trust," well then in that moment I trusted God. So my stance of taking two knees was simply to say, okay, enough is enough.
Let's show the picture.
Pray.
Now, Ray Lewis has not said, guys, what he plans to do today. The Steelers saying that they're probably going to stand, and we know Alejandro Villanueva will be standing to honor that flag, guys.
Yeah, we sure do, along with Ben Roethlisberger and the rest of the Steelers who said, we're coming out of the locker room, we're going to honor the flag.
We don't like what we did last week. We're going to do it differently.
Thank you so much, Griff.
Thanks.